I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmasters, and this is LD and the MC.
Well, as the amazing Mr. Bob Cobb told you, you have arrived at LD
and the MC.
number 19, David.
Number 19, Stevie Eiserman. I mean, big. 19's big. Jonathan Taves, Chicago Blackhawks.
You are a wealth
Joe
of
Montana.
knowledge. You are a wealth of knowledge.
I've just watched too much sports. I'm an idiot. Yeah.
I bet you would kill it like Buffalo Wild Wings trivia night. I
just
feel like you would. I feel like you would be reign supreme. I don't know if you get like free chicken wings for that or how that goes down, but
no, I don't like those. I used to work in a bar, dude, and I hated those damn things. Whatever they were called, like the two worst customers when you're a bartender. The two people you hate the most are those people because they just come in, they order one Diet Coke and play their trivia all night. And the other people that are doing one step worse than those people is the karaoke people. I mean, the karaoke people, they come in, they drink water because their voice, it's just bring their own CDs and stuff. It's ridiculous when CDs were still a thing.
I have so many karaoke takes. And that's not even what we were planning to start the show with, because we always start with the Mom's Basement moment. And I guess all you karaoke and trivia fans out there can put Dave and I in the Mom's Basement for taking some shots. But you said you had a good Mom's Basement for your boy today, and I haven't heard it yet.
I did. And I mean, I don't agree. It's just my job to read it, right? And this is from Trap 431, which
okay, well, I'm going to stop you right there and say this is somebody that that they have commented multiple things on Live, and this is and very personal things, and this is one of about 5 accounts that I banned from commenting on my YouTube. So go ahead, I'm sure it will be.
Oh, really? So I shouldn't.
No, let's bring it. I actually think I know who it is, but anyways, let's go.
I guess this was after an episode where we had been talking about getting our views up, which is basically every episode. I mean, be honest.
And will always be every episode.
Regardless, you're right. Because more people watch this crap than we ever imagined, and it's still not enough. That's the disgustingness that is YouTube. Okay, so anyways, drop the dipstick, and your views will soar. I guess you're the dipstick. No one wants to have little Luke whine about Johnny Morris. He tried to call him out on his last podcast. Johnny does not even know who the hell Luke Basement Boy Duncan is.
Oh, me.
I enjoy watching Bass and you, Mercer, but Luke, he puts like. See, he secretly likes you. He does. But like,
or he just can't spell because he's whatever.
Basement Boy is bringing you down. You have class, and Basement Boy is an arse, and he went out of his way to capitalize the arse.
I like that.
That's
actually way nicer than I would probably be to him, in a comment. But I do want to say this for the record, David, because him saying I'm gonna break down that fourth wall, as they say. Oh, so wow. I did talk about Bass Pro on the podcast. But it was not solely about Bass Pro Shops. It was about corporate entities and fishing, and how the industry is changing, and myself included. In my day job with TH Marine, we are now owned by a bigger company, corporate. Things change, and it was a lot of my frustrations and a lot of other anglers' frustrations, promotional people that and what they're dealing with. But I will say, that episode did go pretty high up the chain. In Springfield, Missouri, because there were phone calls and things that happened because of it. But I will, regardless of who's listening or not listening, I will always try to be, just like we've said on here, I'll always try to be transparent. I will always try to, if it's something that moves me to speak on it, I'm going to speak on it. Not everybody's going to agree with it, like Trap Master 431 that.
This guy really gets under your skin. I'll be honest.
Dude, here's the thing. I
can see your complexion change. Your entire. We don't read these things beforehand, and as soon as I started to read it, you were like.
But she, whatever, comments some very personal, attacking type things on LBL. then it's just not okay. It's not okay. It makes me feel like I probably would know this person in real life, but they would never say those things, to anybody publicly.
Well, here's what I have to say to Travis.
Or with their name, because that's my thing. Say it, Dave Mercer 420 at YouTube, so I can look you up.
Why Dave Mercer 420?
It sounded way better in my brain before it came out.
Yeah. A lot of stuff does. Here's what I have to say to Trap 123 or whatever his name is. I appreciate it. You're right. I am a very classy man, and he is a total arse, but he's one of my favorite arses. Okay,
varsity arse.
He's a varsity arse. And I believe moving forward, it has proved that dude, last week for you, you want to talk about a week. It was an emotional roller coaster. You were varsity, and it still are, and always will be to me. But you were part of one of the most epic fishing trips in history, really, what's been happening down in Texas, post-Ice Age. It is incredible. But let's just talk about your little element of it, first of all. In just 19 weeks of hanging out with me, a self-professed smallmouth aficionado, and only one of these meetings has been in person. Every single one of them has been through the Zoom machine.
Yeah.
And just in that time, for a brief moment in time, you became a smallmouth record holder.
I did. I used all my Canadian power. And I took it to Texas, and I took over. I took what little bit I knew about Tennessee River smallmouth and caught the most unexpected record of my life. I was largemouth fishing. We knew they were there, but man, I don't know. I've said a lot about the trip, and there's been so many videos, and I've got videos that will come out from the trip that I'm just way behind on editing. But the trip was we weren't even going to this lake. It wasn't originally where we were supposed to go. We went down to Choke Canyon for a couple days following the Ice Age. Like you said, we got to Choke Canyon, which is not far from Mexico, and the water was in the 40s down there. It was muddy. These fish were in shell shock. We did catch a few fish, but it was not great. By Choke Canyon standards, they say you catch 100 a day. Like it's a really special. And we didn't do anything like that. And then we made, but Ben Milliken on the way there had the day that he just posted a video about the 60-pound day. Zark catches a 16-pounder.
5 fish for 60 pounds.
5 fish for 60 pounds. So that happened while I was driving to Texas, and he and I are going back and forth. And I'm like, dude, why are we going to Choke Canyon? And he's like, well, man, honestly, unless it's just a couple spots, it's kind of hard up there. And we were going for a media event for 6 cents. So, and you know how those events are. You want to get content, you want to talk baits, and that's what you do. You get together to share boats with guys you don't know. It's a cool thing. So, but we fished 2 days at Choke, and it was awful. And so Ben's like, hey guys, I'm leaving at 2 a.m. and I'm driving back up there. It's like 4.5 hours ways to go. I'm going back. And if it's good still, I'm going to call you guys, and I think you should move the trip. So we stayed at Choke one more day. It was bad. He sends us a picture of a 35-pound limit. Nothing over 9, but that's the day he caught the lake record smallmouth, which brings me to us moving up there.
Which to bring people up to speed here, the record was broken
the week before we got there.
The 20th, I believe. February 20th was
right.
the date. It was broken by a 625.
Yep.
Then on the 22nd, Ben Milliken caught a 6.6 and took the record.
That's right. And so Darian and I, the first day we got there, windy, awful, and all these fish, you're seeing them on live scope, fishing for them suspended and on the bottom, but they're all like 20 to 50 feet of water. I mean, it was a really cool setup, but man, we fought brutal wind, and he and I had 5 that weighed 25 pounds. We never caught one over 6 the first day. And honestly, you know how it is fishing on a windy, rough day. You're kind of drained. And when we went back through the footage that night, I was like, dude, we cracked on them today, but it felt like a struggle because so-and-so caught a 10 and this guy caught an 8. And you hear these stories, and we were looking at so many big fish on the graph that we couldn't get to bite. Fast forward day 2, we catch 30 pounds before 8 o'clock in the morning, including a 710 largemouth. But a dude next to me catches a 10. Like there's all, and we were honestly, dude, this sounds really spoiled, but like we went there for double-digit largemouth, and I was pissed that we hadn't caught one, right? Like I'm like, dude, stupid. I boat flipped a 710. Flipping the boat.
Just angry. If you'd have caught it on Pickwick, you'd be high-fiving.
Of course, right. Anywhere else in the country, you're like, dude, I caught a 7. You know, it's February, right? Like it's early in the year, caught a 7-pounder, new boat, you know, the whole thing. And it like, this is awesome. But no, you're mad. So Darian and I leave that spot. We go to one we had found the day before that we actually shared with Ben, and we found a little deal off of it where there was a big group of fish. We pull back up there. I fire my rig out, throwing an Alabama rig mostly. Caught some on a single swimmer, but mostly I couldn't get them to commit to it. But they would commit to that big rig. And there are like 20 following my rig in. And this will all be on video, but they're like 20 fish, and they're all very similar in size because, you know, you look at that thing enough, you can tell the difference. And Darian's standing right next to me, and he's like, oh my God, dude. I'm like, look. And they're all after it. And it got closer and closer to the boat. Of course, you know, on your retrieve, the closer it gets to the boat, you're kind of screwed, right? So I just free spooled and let it go to the bottom. They all followed it down at the same time, and I hopped it, get bit, load up. Fish fights harder than any we had caught up to a 7-pounder. We caught a lot of like 4s, 5s. And I said, dude, I'm screaming, this is different. Like, this is different, dude. And we've been like choking, you know, talking the PB thing for 2 days. Like, dude, I think this is it. My biggest largemouth was a 9.2. And I'm like, dude, this is it. Like, there's no way this is not it. Fish is fighting like crazy. Huge girth. She comes up and flashes. And I'm like, dude, grab her. Like, I don't have a net. I'm like, dude, that's it. Still have not recognized that this is a smallmouth bass. He scoops her up, puts her in the boat. We're high-fiving just over the fact of how fat the fish is, but immediately you go, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not a 10, right? And then Darian's holding it, and he says, dude, this is a smallmouth. And I'm like, no way. And he goes, yeah. And so they're so deep, they're really bleached out in color. So she didn't look like, well, as she got more excited.
Cold water too, they get
nuts. That's right. So her colors start coming out. I'm like, oh my God, you see the bars on her face. I'm like, dude, it is a smallmouth. So before I put her on scales in my boat, I've caught like 4 in that 6-pound, like low 6s range in my life. And I've seen a lot of 7s like at tournaments on Pickwick. Yeah. But I told him, I was like, dude, that's a 7. I was like, that's a lake record. So I'm like, dude, that's a 7. She was just so fat, man. And we put her in the box. I weigh her on my scale. She weighs a little over 6. And I said, well, dude, Milliken said the 16 weighed like 15 on his scales, 16 on certified scales. I'm like, let's go certify this fish. At no point did we realize the craziest part of this story when all this was going on. Darian had snapped a couple quick pics. He's looking on his phone as we're going to the ramp, and he goes, dude, that's the same fish Ben Milliken caught. I said, there's no way, man. He goes, look at the picture. It's got this beautiful black spot. He said, it's the same fish. No way, man. No way. So we stopped the boat. I get her out of the live well, and I'm like, I'd never even noticed the spot. I was just so keyed up thinking about record. You know, I mean, it's just dude, it's what we all go fishing for, is like the day we never forget, right? That's why we start bass fishing. We all want big bass. We all want, and dude, I've never even thought, when I go fishing at Pickwick, there are giants down there. You think I'm thinking lake record? When you know what I mean? Like this was not in my head. I went down there to try to catch a sharelunker. I went down there to try to catch a double digit. So I'm still processing all this, that I could beat this record. Then we hear it's the same fish. I'm like, and Darian's like zooming in, and the spot is absolutely the same. And then he had a little spot on its gill, a little white spot, same fish. So it's the
same fish for those keeping up. This is
same
fish that Ben Milliken caught
2 days before
previous, and it weighed 6.6.
It weighed 6.6.
So he weighed it,
certified.
Put it in his live well, got it certified, brought it in, released it,
drove like 2 miles to trailer to get this thing certified, pictures, whole 9, takes it back, releases it. I catch the thing 2 days later. And it was just aggressive. Like,
well, no wonder you had to work at its side of the boat there. You know?
Yeah, I did have to work a little bit. But we go weigh it, and at the same place Ben certified it, and even the guy, and we documented all this. I can't wait for everybody to see it, just because it's so, like, emotionally, it's just so freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
But we weigh it, and it goes 6.8. And honestly, I thought Ben's was a 6.8. And on the video, I say, Oh, it tied. Oh, that's awesome. And Darian goes, dude, no, it was 6-6. Like, you got it. So I start going crazy. We call Texas Parks and Wildlife. We do the whole thing. And it was just awesome, dude. We took her back, released her, Darian goes, hey man, I would release her a long ways from that spot. That way nobody catches her again. This one's obviously stupid, but release the fish. But after that though, and you talked about it on FYI, dude, some of the other guys from 6 cents, they catch 2 14-pounders. Like there are several over 13 like that. It just had this feeling. Like I've read the book about like Bob Crupi, the obsessive quest for the Monty Burke book from a few years ago.
Yeah.
But the lines at those ramps in California, and like people trophy hunting back in the 90s, trying to catch that world record bass. Like when we put the boat in that second morning, I told Darren, I was like, dude, this has got a really weird feel to it, doesn't it? Like there's like this is special. Like we're a part of something special. And it hadn't really, other than Ben, it hadn't really got crazy yet. And starting with that, me breaking that record, those dudes from 6 cents, we had to come home that afternoon, and the next day they just start wrecking bass over 10 pounds. And now, the lake's ruined.
So you were on the greatest lake at the greatest time.
For sure. Yeah, I would say that's fair to say.
And you went home.
And I went home.
What did I try to convince you to do the whole time you were there?
You did. You tried to convince me. You're like, why are you not going straight there?
Stay there. Stay there. Don't leave. You're there. You're where every bass fisherman in
want to be.
North America right now. They're seeing those pictures and you're just like, I want to experience that.
I drove almost 14 hours straight home through the night because I had a meeting the next day I had to get to. And that's the thing I don't think people realize, trying to put out YouTube content, doing the fishing thing, doing the podcast. I also have a day job with TH Marine that takes up 90% of my time. And so originally,
if your employer sees pictures of 14 and 16 pounders and doesn't understand, they don't love you anyways. I mean, that's
probably just true. That's probably true. But
I'd be late for the Bassmaster Classic blast off to catch a 14-pounder.
It was so crazy, man. And now I'm talking, actually, Brian Robinson, friend of the show, B-Rob, called me on Friday night and was like, dude, I'm going out there. He lives in South Texas.
Shocker.
And he's like, he's like, what? Yeah, I was everybody's best friend, right? But he's like, what's going on? What's going down? And so I told him kind of the deal. And I said, I think you'll miss it, because I think that the full moon coupled with like us kind of exposing, there was a lot going on because there was a 14 caught on Conroe. There was a 12 caught in a high school turn. There was something going on with those, and they were coming off that deep freeze. They were feeding. But Brian texted me just before you and I hit record and said, hey man, I think we missed it.
Well, I think just the lake's got to adjust anyways, just from
that's right.
From like, if you look at the lake that was 2 weeks ago, regardless of the Arctic winter freeze, whatever, the environment of that lake is incredibly changed. I mean, there is more, transducer pinging those fish are
motors running the
everything. Yeah,
it's sure.
So I think that it's got to change. But yeah, I mean, that's what makes what you hit so special. And, it was right on the full moon, and it happened right across Texas. I mean, OHIV definitely dominated, it was, but that's the amazing thing. Like, if you follow, that ShareLunker program, you'll see, there's different ones that go off. Like Conroe a few years ago was one of the ones, that I remember, that was big chatter about Conroe being the big fish lake. And, they do this, you know what I mean? It just, and that's part of the management. I think, you think,
man,
if it was one lake always, the amount as word spreads and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's amazing, man.
I feel like this lake though, and people probably crucify me for saying this, but this lake is sort of protected, man. Like there's not a Holiday Inn Express. There are some great, awesome campgrounds. There are some little old school mom and pop motels, but and they've had bass champs tournaments on this lake. They have events. Like, people know about this lake in Texas, but now to take it nationally, it's going to be, I mean, dude, I've had people from my home in Middle Tennessee, text me, go, hey dude, how far was that from here? Like, I'm going, I want to go next week. And, but I do feel like that lake, they're good for a reason. And I feel like they'll man, with those genetics, dude, this place is going to continue to be amazing.
I feel like it doesn't matter where that lake is. I feel like thinking that lake is protected is kind of like having a really hot daughter and thinking, man, if I live on the farm, nobody will come sniffing around. They're going to come sniffing around. If your daughter's hot enough, they're coming.
Even if they got to sleep in the truck.
And that lake is hot enough. I mean, dude, there's nothing more remote than Zapata. You know what I mean? True. Like when you think about it, but if the fishing's good enough, you know what I mean? Guys are going to go through it, but you're right. Like that has protected it. Obviously, the more remote it is, the tougher it is, that to get to, it's going to protect it a little bit. But
it's not in Dallas, it's not in that Dallas metroplex like Fork, it's right outside of there. It's not, it's not easy to get to. Now, look, the pictures I've seen from the boat ramp from this weekend, like they found it. They found it.
And you guys, LBL, I listened to, obviously put up with a little, there was some, because dude, this to me was so foreign. As a guy who has touted Texas Parks and Wildlife, I don't know how many, a dozen years, like working at TTBC, the crown jewel of Texas Parks and Wildlife, you know what I mean? Like the ShareLunker program and everything. But dude, I was totally taken back when I heard that you guys dealt with some hate.
Well, I mean, it was twofold.
And I don't want to get into like a specific case about.
But it was twofold. It was towards us personally from anglers that are locals that didn't like what was going on. And look, I get that. I've got a small lake in Tennessee that I love more than anything that I've kept quiet for a lot of years. But now it's no OHIV and it's not a huge lake and it's kind of off the radar. But some local guys that I know started posting pictures on Facebook of all these big bass, and now it's.
But that's part of fishing.
That's right.
Culture. Let's say
that's right.
That's what we want to do. And your first thought is to protect it. You know what I mean? If it's your little jewel, like
that's
right. I live on a lake. I mean, I'm thinking it in my own terms. I live on a lake, and this lake is the most public lake to Toronto. It's the closest inland lake to Toronto. There's boats all over the place. But my little section in front of the shore, I feel like I should protect it. You know what I mean? So if somebody's doing something wrong down there, I might not say anything, but if they're doing so I do feel like that is a general, as an angler, we got something special. Let's protect it. So I understand it,
and I think maybe I'm
fun to deal with.
Yeah, and maybe I'm desensitized to it because of lakes like Pickwick and Guntersville, because they've been exposed by the Elite Series, by FLW, by MLF over the year, college tournaments. We have so many big tournaments on our lakes. And dude, if you go down there right now, on a Wednesday at McFarland Park, where the Elite Series is going out of, first week of March, there'll be 150 trucks and trailers in the parking lot. Like that's my norm. So for a guy, when Ben Milliken caught those 60-pound, he was the only boat on that lake. There was nobody.
That's what I'm saying. It's not. It's a country dusty old dude.
That's right.
The farmer woke up. And all of a sudden,
it's like, Ellie Mae.
Everybody is lined up down the street to visit his daughter. Like, and it's not that he doesn't, he knows his daughter's got to be happy. He knows that she's going to meet a man and, or not, or, go whatever direction she chooses to go in life. And he's okay with that, but it's a very sudden change. I do understand where people come from on that.
I get it. But the other,
if I was close enough, don't get this wrong. If I was close enough, dude, I was trying to figure out ways to get there from Canada.
But the most resounding amount of hate and negativity that I saw that blew truly, and it was conversations we've had amongst us, all the guys that were on the trip, but the overwhelming thing, I've seen it on social media now, I've had it in direct messages, but I had it to my face personally out there, is the hate that people have for the ShareLunker program and Texas Parks and Wildlife. And I'm like, now wait a second. How could you see what's going on and think that Texas Parks and Wildlife is not a good thing, that the ShareLunker program is not a good thing? Listen, they met Ben Milliken at 1 a.m. with that 16-pounder. Like they drove across the state. Like these people are so dedicated to what they do. And look, some of the negativity I've seen, those fish die. Okay. You know that? Like, that they die. They don't ever bring them back to our lake. You know that as well? Yeah. They don't stock our lakes. Like, man, I live in a state and I fish in a lot of other states that, dude, you can't even compare them to Texas. Like, look at Rayburn, which gets pummeled and a guy's catching 13-pounders and freaking 40-pound limits. Look at freaking Lake Fork, dude. Pummeled. Kicks out more double-digit bass. And you know what I'm saying? Like, Texas Parks and Wildlife, they figured it out. They realized that that bass is a resource to that state, and they dedicate millions of dollars, hours, you know, to that fish. Dude, what other state does? They don't. They don't do it.
There's nobody. I mean, there's nobody that will argue that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not taking the word of an angler. I'm taking the word of biologists that figured this stuff out. And in my experience with Texas Parks and Wildlife, every single time something like this happens, there's always an answer. You know what I mean? There is always, like, it's not just random. I did research, Lucas. I did research on your thing.
I like it.
And my good friend Dave Terry hooked me up from Texas Parks and Wildlife, and recently retired. Came out of retirement to help me get this information. So thank you very much. But if you look, generally, the sharelunkers start to show up about 10 years, you know, after they stock them in a lake, and that's when we start to get them back. That's what the research says. So when they put those sharelunker fry in, they'll start seeing them again, more sharelunkers, in about 10 years time. 10
years to get a 13-pound bass. 13-pound bass.
So if you look at their stocking chart here on OHIV, ironically, in 2000, the last time they had a big stocking was in 2001, which wasn't a big stocking. It was 20,000 fish at 2001. Then we go all the way to 2010, 267,000 fish they put in OHIV. 2014, 383,000 fish. 16, 193,000 fish. 17, 185,000 fish. 18, 182,000 fish. In 2019, they put 389,000 fish stocked into OHIV. So for all those people that are out there blaming Texas Parks and Wildlife, and trust me, dude, I'm an angler. I get it. I'm a guy who used to go to Lake Erie and you'd never see a boat, and you could drop on everything and every single one of them would bite. And it's frustrating to see all these boats coming from everywhere. But here's the difference. On Lake Erie, man, the gobies made our fishery. The zebra mussels,
it was a natural thing.
It was a natural thing that could naturally also go away. You had a group of people that worked their ass off to make this fishery, and they literally circled your lake, and in the last 10 years have obliterated it with stocking. And that's why your lake's good. So for you not to support Texas Parks and Wildlife seems insane to me. And trust me, I don't like to mess with Texas. They make sure to tell you not to mess with
it.
Right. Especially being a Canadian, we definitely don't mess with Texas or anyone with guns, to be for that matter. So I don't want to start a war with people of Texas. But what I'm saying is the people embrace Texas Parks and Wildlife, because it's one of the greatest assets that the entire state of Texas has. And man, if you don't think Texas Parks and Wildlife's doing a good job, do me a favor. As you travel around the country, ask other wildlife organizations. Ask the people from Alabama, what do you think of what Texas Parks and Wildlife does? Ask the people of Florida, all the people that have knocked off all these type of programs. You know what I mean? I've been to the lab in Athens. It's absolutely amazing what's happening. But for the state of Texas, that gets in a lot of ways more pressure than anywhere. You know what I mean? The populated, the amount of people, the amount of pressure, the amount of anglers.
The amount of anglers just in the state, dude. It's astonishing.
For it to be the one that stands out. Like if you said to me, well, it's Idaho. Well, okay, I get it. Idaho's got lots of big fish because they don't get a lot of pressure. This thing gets pressure all the time, but it continuously punts out lakes. And I don't mean OHIV, I mean the entire
all
state.
of them.
And that's because of Texas Parks and Wildlife. So
well, think about this. To simply put, they spend millions of dollars to put fish there for you to catch them. That's what it's about. They want you to catch. They love success stories. That's what these biologists put their heart and soul into. But there is not a state in the country where any body of water you launch your boat, you have a chance to catch a 10-pound bass. And in Texas, you do.
and experience that feeling. That
every time.
Like every time you launch the boat, you're just like, when you feel that,
that's right.
You never know. I mean,
you never know. And Texas is that place in our country. A lot of talk about California, Florida, dude. Texas, legitimately, you have a chance at a 10-pound bass in, I would say 90%, if not all, 90% of the bodies of water, like public bodies of water, guys. Like, that's insanity to me.
Imagine what that feels like to the guys that work on it, though, dude. Like, you think about it, that's kind of like, you know, in Canadian terms, hey, you take your kid to hockey practice every day. You get up at the crack of dawn, you drive in the snow, and you go to practice, and you work on them, and you build the rink, and every day you're practicing with little Johnny, getting ready for Johnny makes the NHL.
That's right.
Johnny wins the Stanley Cup. And then Johnny looks at the camera and says, I did this all by myself. My dad's just been trying to slow me down.
Wake up in the morning and piss excellence. Get out of here, Daddy.
No, amazing what's happening in Texas. Thank you to Texas Parks and Wildlife. And honestly,
absolutely, man.
I mean, some of the anglers that may even be upset about some of this stuff, I get where they're coming from, just because of that's a natural thing as an angler.
Yeah.
But if you look at the numbers that I just read, I don't think this is a 1 week window. I think that fishing is going to be good there for a while. And if I were you, the next time a Texas Parks and Wildlife official came by, I'd put my hand out and shake it. Well, and wait till the COVID stuff, because that'll break some regulations.
Elbow bump them right now.
Yeah, give them something. I don't know.
Oh no, Texas is back open, dude. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah, you can shake hands.
Okay. Well, that'll be fine. That'd be
That
fine. If I was in Texas, I wouldn't hang out with humans. Just so you know, I'd just be fishing right now.
No doubt about that.
Wow. So yeah, big week. A lot of giant fish in Texas. Congrats to Texas Parks and Wildlife. These are the weeks that you guys, all your hard work pays off. You know, like. Kyle Brookshire, who runs that entire program, I talked to him about it, and he got me a bunch of information too. And you're right. Like, it's the commitment. Like, I would always jokingly at the pre-tournament meeting give out the number of the Sherlunker guy. And a few times during the pre-tournament meeting, like, I'd call it, you know, because you think they give you this number, it's going to be like, hey, thank you for calling Texas Parks and Wildlife. Press 1 if you want to wait for an hour. Press 2.
Yeah.
If you want to hear music that'll just make you madder. But somebody answers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they treat
That's
that.
right.
That is a hotline. That is, you know what I mean? They'll drive through the night to get to you and make sure those fish are taken care of. And it's awesome. It really is an awesome program. So yeah, big deal. Congrats. And Luke, I mean, I'm not even going to point out the fact that how freaking varsity is it that you are were a record holder? Because Luke's record now has since been beaten, not once, but twice that we know of. And it might be more. So it's freaking incredible. But how in the world is somebody that's so, you know, I love you, dude. You know, I love you. We have fun on here. But what kind of freaking loser catches a record and can't even hold on to the record long enough to record a freaking podcast to talk about said record and still have it?
So here's the thing. In my defense, I wasn't there to defend my title. You can't talk shit about Mike Tyson if he's not there to fight. Okay, damn it. I was back.
Well, yeah, you can when he goes back for a meeting. Well, Mike Tyson, like I've got to go to freaking, we meet every week.
It was one of those things though. And all you low life humpers out there that tagged me in the post about the fish, I appreciate you. Okay. I love the fact that you're like Dave and you're like, you got beat, you suck. But dude, I mean, you just have to smile and like, those are beautiful smallmouth bass over 7 pounds in Texas, dude. Like, seeing that is so damn incredible.
Why are the smallmouth on that? Why has OHIV got small?
I don't know, man.
There's only a few lakes in Texas that have smallmouth.
So the crazy thing was, when I was certifying mine, these two older gentlemen came up and they were like, "You're here weighing a big bass?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's actually a smallmouth." So I took it out of the live well, and they're can I take pictures? And they said, so originally when this lake first kicked off, and it's a Colorado River impoundment, but these guys said all you caught was smallmouth. in the beginning days. So, oh yeah, man, we used to have a lot of small, no big ones, but like we used to catch a lot of smallmouth. And then all of a sudden it changed, probably around the time 267,000 F1 fingerlings got in there. But they said it was primarily a smallmouth place. So we had no idea. I didn't know that they were intermingled. You know what I mean? With the largemouth, it was mind blowing. There were also a lot of comments that it didn't look like a smallmouth, which I'm
sure it's a little mean mouthy. There's no way that there is.
Yeah. Because I saw pictures of smallmouth. Like we had some guys on the trip that caught like some 2 and 3 pounders, and they looked like your smallmouth, my smallmouth. Mine it did look a little mean mouthish. Now, a biologist called it a smallmouth. I saw an article this morning that now they are trying to do some DNA sampling of some of those to see if there's some kind of largemouth. Now, there are no to me, a mean mouth is a spotted bass smallmouth cross. That's in my humble opinion and knowledge of the Ozarks and Tennessee River where people catch mean mouths, that is what they call that cross. There are no spotted bass.
What's a largemouth smallmouth cross? Then?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I've always thought it was a smallmouth spotted bass cross. That's what I've always thought a mean mouth is. Comment if I'm wrong. That's what I always thought it was.
I've always thought it was largemouth smallmouth.
Okay, I always thought it was spot smallmouth.
Oh, we evidently do not know.
We don't know.
Maybe I should have done that in my
But there
research.
there are no spotted bass in that lake though. So it obviously would be a largemouth smallie cross.
Speaking of not knowing, let's leave Texas because this
go to my home state.
Yes, let's go to your home state because this podcast has now affected my career, just so you know. And not in a positive way. For those of you that most don't pay attention, but if you did pay attention one day, I think it was the Saturday weigh-in, several times I referenced our next event being on Pickwick Lake, which is in Tennessee. And it turns out that Pickwick Lake is not in Tennessee, which I was aware of. But like right before I went on stage, Luke sent me a text to tell me he's not coming, promised me. Yeah. He said, hey, I'm coming to visit you. I'm going to see you in Knoxville. We're going to hang out with the Humpers. He didn't show. He sent me a text. He said, well, I'll see you at the next one. And I did, and I have known, so in my head, it cross-threaded. And I guess I do realize that Pickwick is in Alabama. But I will be honest, this is not the first time I've made this mistake. You're talking to a guy who literally did introduce a guy at the Bass Nation once that was from Nebraska as he was from New England. So, because I've learned most of my American geography from the NFL. So I saw the NE, but I've learned that now and I do learn that. So I apologize for any confusion. Duncan, stop destroying my career, please.
Well, Tommy Sanders also said it. And
I think he picked it up from me. I think you're affecting Tommy.
But in your defense, if Bruce Aiken's listening, you guys are mad at Dave, Pickwick Lake is in Tennessee and Mississippi and Alabama, but the host said Elite Series event is in Alabama. But the lake is comprised of 3 states. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And they're actually Tennessee is hosting the Bassmaster Open there in April as well. So out of the Pickwick, Tennessee end of the lake. So easy mistake, David. You can blame me all you want. Trap 461_3 says you should get away from me anyways. And there's more proof right there.
We had a big week in Knoxville, but before we talk about that, I think we need to talk about Redcrest. Obviously, Redcrest went down. Dustin Connell took the title. I mean, another one for the Ring Ding team. Dude, they always have been incredible. Wheeler, Dustin, and MDJ. I mean, they used to call them Money Inc. on the Elite Series because that rooming organization, was bringing in lots. So, wow. But I mean, I will give you credit. Like the moment it announced, I think you put an Insta story about how happy Wheeler and Cannell and MDJ must be that it moved. So, congrats to him. A huge moment for him, obviously. And unfortunately, I didn't get to watch much of it because I was obviously busy at the time. But from what I heard, all went well. And another Redcrest champion. And those dudes are gonna, they're gonna take a lot. Like if you're frustrated by them, you better get used to it because I'll tell you, Cannell, if anything, dude, DC flies under the radar. You know what I mean? And because of all, and not under the radar to any angler. Like, dude, from the moment he joined the Elite Series, people were like, that dude.
And he won in his first year.
yeah, and beat Kevin Van Dam. You know, that was who it went down to, him and Kevin. He has always been, but I do think public-wise, because of the shine around Wheeler, and rightfully so, I think that DC kind of flies under the radar sometimes.
He does.
And I would hope that this victory, you know, will get a lot more people looking in his direction, because he definitely deserves it. I mean, he's a great angler and a freaking phenom. And
dude, I think he's low key on purpose though, kind of like Jordan Lee. But you get to a point in pro fishing you can't be anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like Dustin, it's all about bass fishing to him. He just wants to catch bass, and he's damn good at it, right? But all the other stuff that comes with being a professional, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, he's embraced all that. He's really does well at all that. But I think that's why he has in the past flown under the radar, but I don't think he's going to a lot longer. Did you see Wheeler's video?
Yeah.
Brady video, mate?
I wonder if there's a little Brady in Canal though. Like when you think about it, dude, like Brady is always like, you think of everything Brady's accomplished. And even after winning his 7th Super Bowl, dude, he still brings up his draft pick, and he still brings up all the teams that looked him over. Cannell was looked over by a league.
Yeah,
and dude, this isn't, and he's there, but now he's their champion. Like and good for you, Dustin. You know what I mean? Like, dude, how good does that feel? Remember a couple of years ago you made the list and I didn't make the first cut. I'm top of the list now. Like, freaking awesome. Like, I just love that story, and he's a hardworking guy, and that's a pretty cool deal for him. I was happy to see him.
He's a hilarious dude too. That's what I wish more people knew. Like, dude, he's funny. I mean, funny, super good personality. But I liked I liked that video. I've seen them catch some shit for that.
Did they?
Yeah, man. Well, dude, here's
they're gonna, dude. I mean, they're two young guys who have won a lot.
It's like the bat drop walk off, and in fishing, we're not supposed to make videos like that. That shit's fun. Let's do it. Let's be cocky. I don't care. Let's be confident.
I don't know.
And guess what? When you back it up, you get to make the videos.
I mean, it's
one of those things.
I don't know. I mean, my take on the video is they were having two dudes who won something. They were having fun. Really, I honestly think that with those two specifically, what video could they have made after that would have made people happy? That's right. You know what I mean? Really? Like, just want to thank everybody, just want to, like, there's certain people's careers when you look at what those two have accomplished, that how can you not get mad at those two? You know what I mean? Enjoy it. I actually like the video, contrary to popular.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm here for that kind of stuff. Obviously, I like to run my mouth. So, and I can never back it up, right?
Well, no,
they can't. They can't. Hey, Lake Record. That's all I got to say.
Hey, speaking of Lake Records, I wanted to talk to you about that because we got off topic. But is that a thing in Tennessee? Because I'll be honest, that's not a thing here. Like, I wish it was. Like, it kind of is. Like, there's certain lakes where people are like, this is kind of the record. But in Texas, it's like, there's no guessing.
There's
the lake record is this.
Oh,
and I think that's one of the smartest thing any fishery could have. Is that a thing in Tennessee?
So I am aware of lake records, like you're saying, but obviously I've never gone through the process. Like Texas has an entire line. You fill it out. You talk about what lures, what date, the measurements, blah, blah, blah. You have to have video certification of the weight and the measurement, like all that I had to submit. Of course, I'm glad I put the time in for all that.
Did the paperwork ever get filed? I wonder if that
I never even got an email back like, congratulations, because somebody else had beat me. But I don't know that we have an official process like that. I need to check that out, because like I know what it is on Pickwick, because on the Tennessee side, because it got broken a few years ago by a friend of mine. But Alabama has a lake record on Pickwick, and Tennessee has a lake record, which is very strange. But a friend of mine caught a giant down there, like 15, 16 pounder a few years ago. And Lance Walker. And I don't know.
I think it's one of the smartest things in any fishery. Like when you think about it, I mean, there's programs, not far from where Gussy lives, there's a program that they run in Winnipeg, actually, where it's a master angler program, and it's not even a lake record program, but it's if you catch a bass that's this big, it's considered a master angler.
Yeah.
You catch a walleye, and dude, you go into people's offices, and they've got like all these, and it's just a simple program, but I think we way overthink it sometimes at how simple some of that stuff is to motivate people and get them out fishing. And
well, in the hunting world, Boone and Crockett's, they certify deer based on the measurement, and it gives you, there are archery awards, and it's nothing but it's just a personal thing. It's not a contest. It's not like a fishing tournament or a hunting tournament. You shoot a deer that scores a certain thing officially, and you get a little, hey, there you go. That's cool. It gives you something to shoot for, Yeah. I'm for it. We are about big bass and records and all. I mean, that's, like I said earlier, that's dreams right there.
Okay, speaking of dreams, speaking of records, I brought 3, bro. I brought 3 Canadians. That's all I brought. That's all I'm going to say is I brought 3 Canadians. 3 Canadians we have on the Elite Series. Imagine if we had 10. Just imagine.
Corey still wouldn't win.
The only Canadian never to win a Bassmaster Elite Series event. Corey Johnson. He's got to be going.
I can't wait for him to see that clip when he gets off the private jet this week. I don't care. Corey made me mad. He's flying around being fancy this week. Get out of here.
Yeah.
CJ.
Yeah.
CJ
this week's, a lot of pressure on Corey, I guess. But there shouldn't be. You know what I mean?
Not really at all, but it's fun to act like there is.
He's been in contention twice for Angler of the Year.
Oh, no.
Corey will get his, but the Knoxville tournament in general. Let's just talk about the tournament before we get on to the Canadian thing. Obviously, I'm waving that flag pretty proud, and I'm proud and
I get it.
And it's dude, Gussy's Gussy. I mean, I've known him for a long, long time. And that was a special one to me. I mean, it was really, really special to see Gussy do that. And I think that tournament in general, though, I mean, I'd say it turned out a lot better than many thought going into it. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I thought it was a great event. I like tough events, though. I said that after the fall. I don't have to see 30 pounds a day. I like to see people go through what normal people go through. They were thrown tough conditions following the ice age, a lot of cold water runoff, crazy muddy water, with rain. And not only did Gussy win, but to lap the field with all smallmouth bass that have to be over 18 inches, dude. That's any East Tennessean would have told you, that won't happen. Take a mixed bag, And he did it in an amazing fashion on a technique that he is a guru with, right? Mm-hmm. Like you've known that for years. You said that on live, but I knew it from seeing him whip my butt on the FLW spotty bass lakes. Like dude is dialed on that technique for sure. But to see that, I don't know. I thought you had a lot of really cool storylines. You got Brandon Card, who's a Tennessean, up there in the top 10, getting a lot of camera time and love. You got both Hackney and Christie in the top 10. And of course they are, because it's a grinder and that's what those dudes do.
Scott Martin making his top 10.
Yeah. You got Scotty Too Hottie just out there wearing the visor in the cold.
Dude, watching, I know you've seen it in FLW, but it is something watching him make his way down the dock. There's a bunch of camera guys. There's a dude selling merch. It is freaking something.
I called my channel the Traveling Circus, and Scott needs to be the Traveling Circus because there's a lot of moving parts in that organization.
It's wild. It's wild. The weirdest thing happened on day one, and it hasn't been very publicized. But we had some people late for takeoff on day one. And you want to talk about, and I don't mean, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody.
Like miss takeoff. Like miss takeoff.
Like
boats are gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like 20 minutes late. Like Scott was one of them. And there was, you run an event in Knoxville. It's obviously there's hurdles that come with that. Well, and I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers, but everybody showed up on time the next day. So evidently they widened the ramp. I don't know. And dude, that stuff can happen. You know what I mean? But wow, what a weird feeling to. I mean, I looked at Scott Martin while he rolled up, and I'm like, just your second Elite Series event. You know what I mean? Stuff didn't go good in Florida. And then you're like idling up to takeoff, and you're like, where are they all gone?
Did they cancel?
They left. There's no boats. They're gone. So, that was kind of weird. But showing, a lot of guys adjusted and, kind of shook it off and got back out there and fishing. But just weird. Like I had one guy say to me, I show up 45 minutes to an hour before takeoff always, and I'm on time. And I'm like, dude, all I got to do is stumble down the dock and grab a microphone, and I show up an hour and a half early. You know what I mean? Like, to think you can. So I don't want to. And that is not Scott Martin, because there was him and like 24 others that I think were late that day. But that means that there was 76 others that were there on time. So thankfully we got going and tournament kicked off. But that was oddball, weird kind of deal. It's never happened in the entire. Like I've worked for Bass for over a decade.
Oh wow, really?
There's never been anyone late.
Wow.
Only one dude was ever late for takeoff, Aaron Martins, and it was on day 3 after he had already won Angler of the Year, and he showed up like an hour late, and he didn't give a crap. He's just like, I slept in, bro. I mean, why rush? And he had a good point. I mean, if you've already won Angler of the Year and you've dominated all season, why rush? And but other than that, I mean, that's the only time anybody's ever been late.
That's crazy. I would have figured you had seen that before.
Never. This ain't the FLW tour, bro.
Dave, and I think I can say that nothing is anymore, RIP FLW tour.
But you know what I will say about Gussy's win that I loved? Dude, it was almost the perfect. Not everybody understands. But where Gussy comes from, and everybody comes from special places, but where Gussy comes from is really a special part of the world. You know what I mean? Like it really is. The amount of his friends, his group of people, like, the first time I went out there actually was early 2000s. I mean, that tournament he talked about in 2004 where the Linders won. I mean, I fished that tournament. And I looked at the standings and actually beat Gussy in that one, just so you know. It meant something to me.
Hey, here's your shade you threw. I'm going to give it back to you.
Things worked out better for Gussy after 2004 than me. If you haven't noticed, I now introduced Gussy. But the group of guys up there that support Gussy, it's incredible. Like, because the difference is when you take somebody from Alabama or you take somebody from Texas, wherever, there's a lot of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Gussy's the only one. He's the, you know what I mean? And I'm sure
guy. Yeah.
It's not even a Canadian thing, because I'm sure it's the same for Brandon in Idaho. You know what I mean? There's just not a lot of guys that come from there. It's the same for Carl from Australia. So everybody in that area, like just stopped. And the way he won, like to win that way, dude, these are some of the best anglers that I've ever witnessed in my life that he competes against up there. And they do some of the most oddball things that everybody else looks at and is like the first time I went up there, there's guys like Stooner and Gussy that are like these Alex Kessler. These are like legends up there. But dude, they don't even use a bow mount trolling motor. They fish. They fish off the back of the boat, but they are masters of that technique. And the reason they fish on the back of the boat is positioning wise, so that they're perfectly positioned. And dude, to win it the way he did, to win it that way on a technique that those guys, that was pioneered by Ron Linder, who we just lost, a few months ago, who was so close to Gussy, you know what I mean? The whole Linder family. To win it on his buddy's freaking jig head. You know what I mean? Like to win it on all of that, it didn't feel like it was, people say this on the stage every once in a while. They'll be like, this feels like we're all kind of winning. But it really did. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of felt like, you know what I mean? Like I tied my buddy's friggin' Smeltinator jig head on that he pours for me that now has been knocked off by everybody in the world. Like, and I'm not just talking this week. I'm talking about like that's right. Been knocked off a lot. But it was just awesome to me. That's the dream. And the only thing that was missing is we should have been able to see that. We should have been able to see, because I could only imagine the flood of people that would have been there to celebrate it with him. So, I mean, congrats to Gussy. Congrats to an amazing. What he did, like you said, is improbable. But I also think what he did was because of the situation he's in. We've seen it before. We've seen it on northern fisheries. Like, how does a guy from where Gussy's from come to Tennessee and dominate all these Tennessee smallmouth guys? Although he's a smallmouth angler, we've all heard smallmouth and northern and southern smallmouth.
Yeah, that's right.
So different. So, and they are. But how does he do it? He did it because he didn't have other options. You know what I mean? How did Brock Mosley get a second, out on St. Clair a few years ago, when at a time when a bunch of Michigan guys were sucking, because Brock cycled through 2 spots. You know what I mean? He was kind of locked down into, and you do see that a lot of times where there's certain tournaments, and I think it's tougher tournaments. The tougher the tournament, sometimes it's a bigger advantage to be from out of town and have lack of options. Open mind. Well, you're open-minded, but you're also locked into, like, Gussy's thinking, like, I was with him on Friday night, and we're talking, and I'm like, what do you think going into the weekend? And he's like, there's no way that I don't feel that there's 10 more smallmouth I can catch there. You know what I mean? Like, he's worried that they won't all be 18 inches. He's playing but he also removed everything else because he tried it. You know what I mean? So I just think we underestimate how important sometimes, locking one area, one technique, one approach, and we get trapped in this world of being versatile and doing different things. And, you got to, sometimes how you win an event is just to lock what you're best at in your hand and don't have other options. The only reason Gussy had that spot is because of the little bay up at the top there that he was going to go catch a little tiny largemouth on, and he never went there. You know what I mean? It would have been so easy for him to be like, I'll try play it safe. It was awesome what he did. And I feel like it was a win for his whole community. And I don't think that he'll be the only one doing that the next time we're there. My question was, like, did Gussy just blow the Bassmaster Classic by doing that? Like, think about it, dude. I mean, I would assume we'll be back in Knoxville for a Bassmaster Classic at some point. You know what I mean? Like, it was
a great classic. Yeah,
too successful not to think we're not gonna go back there in the next 2 to 3, 5 years. You know what I mean? Like that, I bet a lot that we'll be back there. This isn't coming from any information, but that for the record, me and Glenn Jacobs, who is a former WWE wrestler, Kane. You might not have seen it, but he was at the event on Saturday or on Sunday, and we've come up with a plan that if the Classic does come back to Knoxville, he will choke slam me on the stage. It's all set. It's going to happen. I can't wait. But did Gussy throw the cards out there a little too soon? I mean, you never want to say that, but
what's he going to do? Finish 7th?
Nah, I know.
Not win a blue trophy?
No, you're not gonna. But
I would like to speak for all Tennesseans just for a second,
as a smallmouth expert,
smallmouth expert, and say what he did was remarkable and a surprise for a Canadian guy to come in and beat the flat-sided, crank-baiting, Demiki rigging, Tennessee River specialist, jerk baiting, doing a Canadian technique basically to win. But how backwards is the fishing world right now? Tennessee goes to Texas, catches a lake record smallmouth. A Canadian comes to Tennessee
for 2 hours.
For 2 hours. For 2 hours. And now a Canadian wins the Elite Series
forever.
On the Tennessee River. Forever.
Nobody can take it away from him.
Nobody can take that from me.
Yeah, you're right.
I did it. Yeah.
You're right.
My name's not in the book, but I did it for a minute. It's okay. It's like I told a guy that I saw here in my hometown. I was like, well, I saw your little record got beat. And I was like, yep. But it was
that's like me.
My damn record for a minute. Okay, buddy.
That's like me showing up at the Classic takeoff at 5 a.m. and saying, man, for a little while this morning, I signed the most autographs out of any pro out here. Well, yeah, but there was no other pros. So they were bored. So they just, of course, asked you. And then when the real pros showed up, now, I'm happy that you got your, but it is, the world is messed up. It's a messed up.
Everything is backwards right now.
Everything's backwards. And but Gussy's a freaking champion. And you know what? Why don't we get we don't do this, but I'm going to step on toes here. How about we get Gussy on this freaking show? I mean, I was expecting him on LBL, but you let me down. I mean, you had your 100th, your bull crap out there with the big fish and stuff.
What do you want me to do, Dave?
I don't know.
What do you want me to do?
I don't know.
The 100th LBL was a blast. I had a great
time. I thought it was very good.
It was fun, but I did not have Gussy on, and I would love to have Gussy join us on LD and the MC.
Ladies and gentlemen, through the whatever technology, here it is. Here we are live in the Snow Leopard's lair. Gussy, you made it home. You're a freaking Elite Series champion. The last time I saw you, you were heading into a ridiculous rainstorm in Kentucky, and
yeah, I know it was. We got pretty lucky. Like the weather ended up being pretty sweet that last day in Knoxville. But yeah, we drove through Kentucky heading north on Sunday night, and it was nasty. I mean, I hit some big dips in the road, and there was cars in the ditch, and yeah, I hadn't seen my wife in like 5 weeks, so I was like
motivated.
Stopping, we're going home. This truck is headed north.
We've all been there.
Yeah. I just was like, it's too bad, but yeah, I'm heading north.
There's a lot of emergencies, some of them flood emergencies, and other people have other emergencies, and you were dealing with that at the time. So
sorry, I came to your country and won one of your blue trophies. I have a wife to see.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, dude. There it is. Weird. I know. It's so weird to win that and not have your family and stuff there. But what's it been like? Just give us kind of an idea. You showed me your phone and the amount of. There he is. You showed me your phone and the amount of texts and stuff you were getting. I mean, at the time I left you, it was like 980 something texts. You had in your phone. Talk to me about this.
Like, literally, I'm down to like 300. Like I've been replying to everybody. I got one from Luke. I haven't hit.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Might have been your LBL invite. Just saying.
I did kind of, when I saw that, I did consider it, but no, I mean, honestly, it was, it's been kind of overwhelming. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I'm a regular dude, and like, it's crazy.
I would say you don't get that many texts if you're not one of the most liked and respected fishermen to ever do this. And that's what I said on LBL. And that's what I said on Instagram. It's good to see good guys win. And I told Dave earlier before we started, recording on the FLW, I never knew you just other than by name until we started fishing against each other when I joined the tour. And you just always blew me away. It didn't matter who it was, what it was, just how absolutely nice you were and helpful to a dude like me. I mean, you'd throw me tips out there like, hey man, this is going on. I tried to return the favor, but you were always way higher in the standings than me. So I never could really.
I don't know about that,
but man, it's just awesome to see. And I was always shocked that you never got one of those FLW trophies. So to get a blue trophy now, man, is I'm super pumped for you, dude.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, for me, I just live for doing this stuff, right? Like all of us, but I'm just very grateful for the opportunity, and I certainly don't take it for granted, and I'm having the time of my life, and I made so many good friends, and so for it to finally like happen and be real, it was, it just, because they're like, for the perception a lot of people have is this is like the most glamorous job in the world, and like we have like pro athlete friends that get paid real money, and it's like it's amazing. Like I say, I'm super grateful that I get to do what I'm doing, but there's a lot of sacrifice, and like the 5 weeks on the road and the driving for 20 hours straight after a tournament by yourself, like that part of it's not glamorous. And so getting to strap that baby in next to me and hold it over my head is, like, it just makes it all kind of worth it.
Gussy, one of the things that I consider myself lucky enough is I've seen your part of the world. I've seen your friends. I've seen that when I watched it all go down, and I've already talked about this, a lot on the podcast up to this point, but dude, it felt like everybody, like that whole crew, you know what I mean? Whether it be the Linders, Stooner, Gussy, Alex Kessler, everybody, Ryan with the Smeltinator. It just felt like, people say crap all the time, but it felt like you won that one for everybody, but it literally involved everybody. Like you used a technique that all you guys have like mastered over the years and everything.
Yeah, it was cool. And that was like the feeling that I had was just like, there was a lot of relief. I was glad when it was over, but it was just a lot of like, I was proud that I felt like I was sharing it with a lot of people. And I said it on stage. I mean, I got friends here that I think are probably like have more natural fishing talent than I do, but I caught some breaks and I'm on that stage and it's it's pretty cool. The coolest part, and I told you this after, I think, Dave, but like the coolest part for me, like after everything was over, the highlight of the day that I'll remember forever is just like the other anglers wanting to get a photo with me in the trophy. Like Carl and Brandon Palaniuk drove up and watched the weigh-in and like were the first two guys that wanted to get a photo with me. And Cox, like he wanted a picture with me with his whole family. Like, it's just like, that was cool. Hackney came up to me and said, dude, you just kicked the shit out of all of us. And, that was just so deadly. Like,
that's amazing. Dude, that's what you don't forget, right?
Yeah. So
like
that
the money
was like,
and the trophies, but that's it, man.
Yeah. Like it's a lot of money, but like the money's kind of easy come, easy. It's pay a bunch of bills, pay the tax guy, it's, but like, that and just, having Hackney come up to me and say that, like, that was pretty deadly.
That's one of those moments in life that you're like, I hope somebody got that. I can't, you know what I mean? That is just one of the cool, like to fish against those guys is one thing, you know what I mean? And obviously, you've been around the industry. It's not your first tournament, so you've seen that. But to have that moment, it's one of those things. I don't care how many times that happens. I'm sure that never gets old. I mean, no. Greg Hackney's never given me a compliment like that. He's swore at me, but never in a positive way.
Well, and he like, cause he's kind of an intimidating dude, right? Like if you don't know him, you're like, Hack's kind of scary, but I mean, he came up and he's just got like the biggest grin and smile. And he just says that. And it was like, oh man, that's so cool.
That's awesome, man. Do you think though, now that you've kind of exposed this technique, the moping technique, that we will ever see Greg Hackney out there moping?
No.
Yeah. Okay. You just got it. But Dave brought this up earlier. You locking that in your hand enabled you to win this event. It was a tough event. And Dave said, maybe in tougher events, this is proof positive that you should just stick to your strengths. And that's what got Hackney into a top 10, right? That's what got Jason Christie into a top 10. Yep. But you were able to exploit a technique better than most on a fishery that most of those fish had never seen it, to win your first tournament. But you can't use that in Florida, right? You can't use, so it's cool to stay in your lane and see when things work out, because you've had chances, right? Like I think at Lanier, you were probably doing that a little bit. I think on the W Tour at Lanier, you were probably doing that too, right?
Yep.
It works a lot of places.
But you're right. And like, you hear that all the time. You hear these guys that are like Hackney and Christie that just kick ass all the time. You hear them say, I do what works for me. But it's like a lot easier said than done. But
that's a good point.
Hopefully I learn, because I like usually got to learn everything the hard way, just the way it goes. But yeah, like a few years ago, I probably wouldn't have like had this, because my practice was horrible. I caught 3 keepers, the biggest being like 2 pounds the first day of practice. Never caught a keeper the second day. And I go out the third day and I'm like going and throwing a little square bill and a chatterbait and a spinnerbait around, like continuing to do the things that aren't working. And I'm like, I have to like try something different. Like I can still come and just do this in the tournament and try and catch 3 bass and, not try not to finish last, but like, I want to do better than that. And, it doesn't always work like that, but I got just like really pretty lucky that I found what I did. And going into the tournament, I mean, I had no idea that was going to be as good as it was. Like, even after I caught them good the first day, I was still like, did I get lucky? You know, and then when I caught them again the second day and they were still there, then it was like real. Like, I'm going to win this tournament, I think. And
awesome, man.
it was an amazing feeling.
Gussy, to have been in this situation before, you know what I mean? Like, this was definitely not talk to me about how weird it is, because it always seems like it's never the one you circle. You know what I mean? Like Lanier, for example. Like, if I going into last season, me and you talked about Lanier and how much you're looking forward to that, but I'm sure this was not the one that you were like, man, I'm going to get my victory.
No, I only had I caught every fish on the same bait on a spinning rod. I only had 4 spinning rods with me. And that's like a big part of my program, right? And just because where we were fishing, you know, you try to carry what you need, but not go too crazy. You know, yeah, I never expected to, because the only information I had on this place was watching the show from the Classic a couple of years ago that went on one. And I mean, there was nobody fishing deep. Nobody was using spinning rods. It was just bank beating 101 pretty much. And, you know, so yeah, I'm kind of like proud that I like did something a little bit different, and it worked out. Like it you know, cause it doesn't always work like that, obviously, but, I don't know. Yeah. Highlight of my fishing career, and just like you know, it's just been so like, trip, like I've been asked if like a few times, like who's messaging, like Al Linder was one of the, you know, I showed you that the other day, but like Al Linder sent me a couple this morning. Like literally I've just been going through my messages, and like Trip Weldon sent me an awesome message, and that was so like just a guy that I think the world of. And you know, and then I'm just really grateful for, I just replied and said, dude, I'm so grateful that I'm part of the Elite Series. And you know, because I got really lucky, and I know Dave helped with that, but like I got lucky that I'm part of that group, and I know how hard it is to qualify, and you know, just it was the right place at the right time for me. So like I'll be forever thankful for him for, you know, whatever part he had in that as well.
Well, on that note, would you like to sponsor LD and the MC? I mean, we could be LD and the MC, brought to you by Gussy in all caps. Think about it. Yeah. You just want 100K.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave? I mean,
we're not in a position to turn anything down. I'll tell you that much.
We can be paid in your little jig heads, you know.
Oh yeah.
Can be paid.
Brian's already sent me a lot of those jig heads, so I think we might actually be unofficially sponsored by them.
Okay. Well, I'm going to need you to share the wealth, because I know some smallmouth bass close to me that need to see that a little more than they ever have.
Yeah. I can get you a care package, Luke, for sure.
Just make sure it's got some of the Z-Men in there too. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. No problem.
Hey, Gussy, you're going to be on every single podcast on Earth in the next, and have been on a bunch already. And they're going to ask you about techniques and stuff. I don't really care about that crap. I mean, I'll watch those
I've
podcasts.
had enough too about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about, like, give me some, like, I want to go on the same stream. I mean, your buddies are incredible anglers, but even better partiers, really. And that is the biggest thing that I've missed. Like, you go up and compete in these tournaments, Luke, and I'm going to tell you, like, me and Gussy were beside his boat, like packing his crap away. And it was just me and him in a parking lot, 2 lost Canadians in Knoxville after that's all done. And I'm like, see, this is the one thing that they have up there that's special. Like, dude, after their tournaments, whether it's Fort Francis, KBI, any of them, dude, they have the most ridiculous parties. Like, I'm not going to tell you who, but several anglers got driven home by the cops. But the best part is the cops weren't driving them home because they were in trouble. The cops were just like, all right, boys, you've had enough.
Just wanted to make sure everyone got home safely.
Time to pour you back in your room. How did they party with you? I mean, you didn't get to be part of it, but I'm sure
well, I got home Monday night, like 24 hours later, and Shelby was still like kind of curled up on the couch. So,
well, in her defense, I was standing right beside him when I mean, they obviously talked on stage for a brief second, but I was standing beside him when they had the phone call, and his last words were like, "Hey, you know, give her tonight, light it up tonight." So you did. She did exactly what you had requested.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome. But yeah, I've got like awesome friends here, and you know, Dave and I are I don't know if you knew this, Luke, but we're both on the quarantine program, so we have to kind of keep to ourselves.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, she went into work yesterday, and I think she's going to take some time off here for the next couple months and come with me. And we're probably going to just like be living in the US and, you know, like we're allowed like 6 months, but we're going to stay probably like through the Classic in June, unless it changes where we can kind of come back a little bit easier, but it's pretty tough. You know, so we want to be able to go do what we want to do and fish. And I mean, I don't think COVID's a joke. It's not. And, you know, but, you know, we can go fishing and like be safe. And, so I'm pretty happy about that. And, you know, but yeah, once we're able to, there's going to be a big party here in this shop, with this guy, and we're going to figure out how to like, include whiskey in the celebration with this trophy. So it's got a bass's mouth on it, but like, I don't know. It's not really like a one we can do shots out of. So
I bet you guys will figure it out. I bet.
Yeah,
we'll have faith.
Figure something out. Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to throw it out here right now. I don't know that Luke will be there because he's in another country, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm in Canada, we are going to do the first ever LD and the MC live from that park.
Okay.
It'll just be very beginning, very early on. Like I'm talking like the first 10 minutes I walk in the door, because after that I should not be on anything. Or any streaming service anyways. But dude, honestly, congratulations. I mean, we don't normally have the winner on here, but Gussy, I mean, I'll be honest, I've seen a lot of people win. This was weird. I mean, just because of our history, dude. And to see you go from a kid too nervous to do seminars to holding that blue trophy, man, you are truly, you're what this sport's all about. And dude, all these things, these opportunities that opened up for you didn't open up by mistake. And every single person that spent any time with you knows that. And I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to close out our show. Well, first of all, I'll give you an opportunity to say anything. Do you have anything to say?
No, I just keep up the good work, boys. We all love the podcast. And this is, I mentioned it when I came on, but this is Luke's B podcast. I didn't get to go on the A one.
For sure.
You know,
you'll get called up to bar. Here, I'm gonna say this before you go. You have an invite to come.
And now he's got an invite.
No, he's got an invite. You're gonna be close, Pickwick, to the LBL Bar and Grill, buddy, in person.
Okay. Let's do it.
And the wife come by.
Do it. Yeah.
I'll grill out. I didn't even offer that today. We'll cook some food. It'd be great. We'll celebrate.
It'll be real good.
Dave is not invited.
Sounds amazing. No, but big fan of the show, guys. You guys are killing it, doing a good job. And I listen to these when I'm pre-fishing. I'm by myself in the boat all day and I listen to podcasts. So I'll have a couple built up here. And then when I get to Pickwick, I'll get back on it again. And, awesome. But yeah, I enjoy it. All my buddies up here are fans and love this stuff.
Well, I'm glad that they listen to the A and maybe the B podcast. But I was going to let him close out the show. Ladies and gentlemen, there's your champion, and you've been listening to LD. Look, Duncan, it's you. Where are you?
It's Gussy. I was waiting on Gussy.
Gussy wins trophies.
I want him to say LD and the Gussy.
No.
Do it again. Do it again.
Me and Gussy going to talk off that little B show bullshit.
This has been maybe the last LD and the MC. Thank you, Gussy.
All right. Take care, boys. Thanks.
See you, buddy.
Later.